the NDC MPP have taken over the neo-colonialist movement, and they are practicing that. They are lording themselves over this nation. It's not a question of Sam Ankrah, it's a question of the timing.
Okay.
If what you are going through today, it's something that will still get you to have your vote on autopilot, then there's a problem with you.
Hi, good day and welcome to another edition of the Lowdown here on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Daniel Ojo, and as usual we'll bring you another exciting conversation. Today my guest is a man who is hoping that he will get the mandate of Ghanaians to become the next president of this country. In the last 40 plus years or so, or in the Fourth Republic of this country, we've not had a third force or an independent candidate make inroads as far as our elections are concerned. But he believes the time is ripe, and the failure of both the MPP and the NDC has set the tone for a new alternative. We'll discuss with him his plans for this country, especially the youth of this country, many of whom are leaving the shores of this country in droves. We'll also talk about who he is, where he grew up, and how Ghanaian he is. My name is Daniel Ojo. This promises to be an exciting conversation. Dr. Sam Ankrah is my guest on today's edition of the Lowdown. Doc, thank you very much for your time. You claim you are going to be the next president of Ghana. Do you believe in that?
Absolutely.
You believe in that?
Absolutely. I mean, there's never been an opportunity like this for anybody. The current conditions, the current economic hardships the Ghanaians are going through, the experience we've had from one government to the other, clearly shows an indication for a change. And I believe that I present myself at this stage to Ghanaians as somebody who is willing to take up the reins and turn things around.
Right, right. It's quite interesting. So something happened when I was doing my research before this interview. As I was reading about your initial announcement, which was published online, and reading through it, and then I moved on to social media, and all of a sudden I see on my Facebook somebody called Sam John Ankrah, and I was thinking, is it the same person? Do you have a John in your name? And that is my next question, whether you are the same person. If you are, do you have a John in your name?
Well, I don't have a John in my name.
Okay, so
my middle name is Sapon.
Sapon, okay.
Samuel Sapon Ankrah. Middle name is Sapon. I don't have a John in my name.
Yeah.
But as you know, Johns have been synonymous to presidents
Exactly.
in this country. So it could be somebody trying to be prophesied to the future and saying, well, this is the next John. I don't know. But again, I have to be honest with you. I don't have John in my name at all.
All right. Let's start from trying to get to know you. Sam Ankrah sounds very familiar. Are you related to some country Ankrah? Because you have Sam and you have Ankrah, even though you don't have the country.
He's a distant cousin.
He's a distant cousin?
Yes.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
Cousin, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Tell us about your childhood, your growing up. Did you live in Ghana? You know, the ordinary Joe will say you have a certain accent of sorts.
Okay, well, I was born in Kumasi. I mean, to be honest, I grew up in Kumasi. My mother is an educationist. My father was a mechanical engineer working for the railway at the time.
Okay.
I grew up in Kumasi. I went to primary school in a school in Kumasi called Martyrs of Uganda Preparatory School. In fact, I happened to be in the same house as the current CEO of MTN, Stella Madadivo.
All right.
We're in the same house. We used to run for our house in a primary school. I left Martyrs of Uganda to Opokwari Secondary School, again also in Kumasi. And then after sixth form, I left to England, to University of London, Baby College.
Wow.
And the rest is history, as you can see, as they say.
How often have you come back home during your stay in London? Or
I used to come quite often.
Okay.
Because I had my parents still here at the time. My mom was here, so I used to come in. Dad was here, so I used to come in and see them and go back to England and live there on my own to do my university, and then stay there to work and move from England to different parts of the world. And basically, I'm here now.
So you're an Ashanti. Are you an Ashanti or you live there?
My mom is Ashanti.
Okay.
My mom comes from Shesejumasi in Ashanti region, and as you know, Ghanaians were maternal to an extent, and the girls too are paternal. But whatever it is, I am Ghanaian, a full-blooded Ghanaian. Yes.
Okay.
And,
a lot of the politicians have had the privilege of schooling or living in Europe or the Americas, and sometimes when they get the opportunity, we expect them to replicate some of the nice things that they've seen and experienced. We've not had that. What are the things that you experienced that you felt that the average Ghanaian should enjoy these things?
I mean, basic things in life has to be basic for everybody. We live in a posh splash area like here as you are, and we don't even have 24-hour water or power. This is not in the 21st century. I mean, I think there's a problem. How are we running our country? We calling ourselves a developing country. We are proud of that. With all the resources available to us, both human capital and natural resources, one would expect even for us to have much more better living conditions than elsewhere. And they have severe weather problems and so forth. We don't have that 24/7. The sun is on 24/7. The weather is great. I think we can do much, much more than what we are having at the moment.
Okay. You've, in your initial statement announcing your intentions to contest, there was something that jumped out at me. You mentioned that you are aware of the repercussions this would have on your business, on your family, and on your lifestyle. Since that announcement, have you seen any changes in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, it's expected. People have built empires in this crisis, in this mess, and they continue to do so. To come out from nowhere to stop the livelihood of certain people or to block certain things would not be easy. You have people who are entrenched into these political parties as well, and they have their very strong support. They won't allow a young man, so to speak, with an English accent or whatever accent you might call it, come in and would want to blow things apart and create a path for Ghanaians, and especially the youth. There are going to be sabotages here and there. They're going to be character assassination. They're going to be creating doubt in people's mind on who the persons you are. But these are expected. And we're ready. I didn't just decide to contest for this. There was a strong conviction that I have to do this. I believe it dawns on a generation to leave a legacy or leave for the other generation, and now is the time. I didn't expect this to be a very easy sell through. So I'm happy to put myself on the altar of sacrifice.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And help save this nation for this generation and the generation that's to come. So that posterity will look at me and judge me correctly.
Okay. You're looking at the man who is very, very firm in his conviction that he's going to be the next president of this country, with your mandate, with your support. Today, we try to get to know him a bit personally and try to appreciate what, if you like, grand ideas he has for the youth of this country and for the generality of Ghanaians. We understand that he grew up in Kumasi, went to Pokuwari School, so the old students of Opokuwari, I'm sure this is the time to back one of your own.
Akatechi, yes, you haven't had a president yet.
To be the next president of Ghana. We had a lot of lawyers being president, but he's a banker by
development economist
and
an investment banker.
Exactly. And we'll talk about that. The financial crisis, the collapse of the indigenous banks in Ghana, the COVID-19 that seemed to have swept through the profit and the growth of a lot of indigenous Ghanaian businesses is one that has been attributed to the current economic mess. First of all, what do you make of that banking cleanup and its attendant effect, and what many say that has contributed to the collapse of our economy?
I think, to be honest, the banking cleanup was very, very harsh. You don't do that to an economy, a fragile economy like ours, where employment is very difficult to come by. There's a huge informal sector of small businesses that require the services of these banks. And I think attacking and closing them for whatever reason, to be honest with you, from my point of view and from my professional point of view, was wrong. This is not the first time said things that happen in any part of the world. America had even gone through similar experiences, but they tend to save the banks by tiering them. Tier 1 banks, tier 2 banks, up to the big banks. You have traders that could walk into UT Bank and just get a facility within 24 hours because they have staff at the port. You can't do similar in Stanchart or Stanbic Bank. So they have a niche they were looking after. Then again, livelihoods were at stake. You have Indium opening banks every corner in the country.
Yeah.
So if you had sense or source a potential threat, or there's a problem, or you see from the compliance point of view, there are irregularities, you cut a line between the business and the criminal aspects.
Okay.
You deal with the criminal aspect, and then you let the business function, because the business was serving a purpose. Banking is a great factor, economic factor in any in any country. So you have to be they are sensitive, and you don't just attack them based on hearsay or irregularities. Like I said, there has to be a clear distinction between the business and the crime.
Okay.
And shutting them down, the crime has still not yielded to anybody being arrested or anybody apprehended for whatever they've done, apart from one isolated case at ASEAN, apparently, who happens to be in. But what I'm saying is, I think a bit more human face could have been put on it, and there should have been a clear distinction between the crime and also the business, judging what services it was providing to the economy and their contribution to the economy as a whole.
Okay, we'll come to what you intend to do when you are elected as president, and before then your plans and your big ideas. But traditionally, it would be easier to join any of the two big political parties. You are from Ashanti, NPP is very big there. They are World Bank, etc., etc. Were you never tempted to join either the NPP or the NDC, go through the ranks, go through parliament, become a minister, and then, because you look like a relatively young man, you have a lot of years ahead of you.
Very young man. but then again, that's a challenge with our part of the world. In anywhere in the world, Obama was the president when he was in the 40s.
Right.
This is the right age to think well, appoint the right people to develop a nation. So I think we don't wait for people to, I would say, retire before you bring them from retire age to come and do what. Okay. I believe we need to start looking seriously in appointing and getting the right caliber young people, very industrious, very sharp in their thinking now to run nations. Talking about joining the political parties, to be honest, we're running a separate campaign.
Okay.
What I'm saying is the systems we have now has become dysfunctional.
Okay.
In fact, the parties itself has become contaminated centers and is breeding the wrong people to lead this nation. Okay. And that is why I didn't even opt to start a political party, but to have a movement and go independent, devoid of any of those nuances and so forth and so on. If people are paying as high as 100,000 Ghana cedis just to be shortlisted to be a party's candidate before they even contest, where is the money coming from and how are they going to pay it back? So you see that when they get to power, the first year or the first 2 years, how do we recoup the money we've invested? These are investments, they want it back with interest. The next year is, how do we make money for ourselves and our immediate families and friends? Then the other year is, how do we win the next elections?
So that's the cycle.
Exactly. The Ghanaian is not being taught after. It's just them and the cabal that wins elections. That is why it's become like a war now, because people have invested heavily. A lot is at stake. You hear the former president saying this is a life and death, year or die be die. The aggressiveness and the desperation to win this political power because of what has been invested. This is not right. We can't continue this way. So I personally believe even the current structure itself is not helping our economic growth. So I'm coming out as an independent candidate, devoid of any of these encumbrances, take over the country, break the systems, and rebuild them. That is the objective, and that is the vision. So that we can have a fair system that would elect leaders and run a country and a government that would benefit people as low as the grassroots.
Okay. You would know that this has never happened in the Fourth Republic. We've not had a third force. We've not had an independent candidate who's made a major breakthrough in this duopoly that we have with the NPP and NDC. Are you convinced that the Ghanaian voter now will look at a third force?
Absolutely. It's the time. It's not a question of Sam Ankrah. It's a question of the timing.
Okay.
If what you are going through today, it's something that will still get you to have your vote on autopilot, then there's a problem with you.
Okay.
Einstein says something very profound, and I keep repeating that on platforms. It's only an insane person that keeps doing the same old thing over and over again and expecting a change.
Okay.
We've done it for the last 30, 40 years. Our circumstances hasn't changed. I traveled to Damango to campaign recently, and I had a very sad story. I like talking to old ladies because of my mom was in her 80s, so when I see old women, everybody's my mother. And the woman approached me, young man, you're speaking very nicely. You are saying all the right things. But guess what? You see that pond there? Mm-hmm. That is where the wildlife drink from. The elephants and all the wildlife. The cow go there and drink, the horses. And we also drink from there. And this has been going time immemorial. Politics had not had any effect in our circumstances. We only see them maybe a month before the election or during the election period with T-shirts and 50 cities and so forth. And that is the only time we realize the benefit of politics. How different are you going to be? How are we going to receive it? This is how sad it is in our situation in our country. Right. So we need to make sure that politics as it's meant to be is to change the lifestyles of our people. Okay. Bring people from where they are into better living conditions. And if you have done that over the last 30, 40 years, and you haven't seen that, and you're still keeping that, then I think you have a problem. So I'm challenging Ghanaians. If you're indeed looking for a change in this country, if you want to make sure that your life is affected by political decisions, then vote differently 2024.
Okay.
If you read a book by Greg Mills, Why Africa is Poor, he made a very profound statement, and he said, Africa is poor not because of aid per se. It's not because our people are lazy or any of that sort. It's because our leaders have made choices that have put us in this position. This is what we need to correct. And that is why I'm calling on us, a clarion call to every Ghanaian that hears my voice, that the time has come for us to start thinking differently and doing things differently.
Okay. So, speaking like the next president indeed, and their slogans are very big in our part of the world. We'll go for our first break. When we return, I'll ask him what his big slogan is. The NDC's presidential candidate, John Mahama, says is doing a 24-hour economy. It's, if you like, stirring a lot of debate. And then the vice president, who is contesting on the ticket of the NPP, says is the digitalization man. Is pushing the agenda of digitalizing every aspect of our lives. He says that is what's going to reduce corruption in our country, and that is his big idea. So we'll ask Dr. Sam Ankrah what his big slogan is, if at all he has one, when we return from this break. Stay with us, we're back after this break.
Everyone needs the perfect snack to munch on during a fun moment. Wow. Enjoy the tasty McBerry Twist cupcakes, deliciously baked and packaged for a sweet treat. Premium quality cakes baked with love for all, enriched in butter and milk.
Yummy.
Oh, McBerry Twist cupcakes, simply irresistible. Try one today. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back from the break. This is So the Lowdown on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Daniel Ojo. Today we're having a very interesting conversation with Dr. Sam Ankrah, the man who believes he's the next president of Ghana. You've heard him across media platforms, but today we try and know him a bit up close and personal, and what his big ideas for Ghana is, especially the youth of this country. He stayed in the UK, school there. We'll see some of the things he can import to this country to make the lives of Ghanaians better. seeing as a lot of Ghanaian youth are leaving the shores of this country to that part of the world or to advanced countries. Doc, so you say this is a movement, alternative
force for action.
For action.
Yes, AFA.
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 AFA. Oh, okay. So it's AFA.
Yes.
Oh, great. So, do you have offices across the country? Are people going to contest on your movement for parliament, etc.? Because you need parliament to be able to govern. If you are elected, the constitution says the majority of your ministers must come from parliament, and all of these things. Are they not going to be bottlenecks for you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're building from every polling station in this country.
Okay.
Our presence are felt from every polling stations. We're going to field in independent candidates across the nation. But worst case scenario, if we don't get the numbers in parliament, this is going to be a people's government.
Okay.
So anybody with the intention of sitting in parliament to sabotage us, our projects, would be exposed. When we put the policies and the programs that we want to put in place to affect the lifestyle of Ghanaians, and somebody says in parliament to sabotage us, we will go and hold town hall meetings in your constituency, telling your people exactly the benefits of these policies and programs that we're putting in place and why their candidate would have chosen sits in parliament and wants to sabotage it. So people are going to sit right, because if you don't sit right, you get back and they've taken you off and replaced it with somebody else.
Okay.
So this is how we're going to run this administration. We're talking about only 20 ministers, not more than that.
You're going to have only 20 ministers?
Absolutely, 20 ministers, no regional ministers. We'll make sure DCs are elected. So what the intent is to make sure that politics is felt at the grassroots. At the moment, it's not. And people are not feeling, they are not benefiting. So we want to make sure that the DCEs would run their districts under a local government ministry and the rural development ministry, which will take care of all the DCEs across the nation, minus regional ministers. So we're looking for only 20 solid ministers to run this nation. Our government budget is huge and it's not sustainable. UK, with a population of about 65 million, has only about 350,000 people on their payroll. Ghana, with only 31 million, has over 1 million people on our payroll. And the shenanigans of sitting allowances and pedimes and land cruisers and chef pays and all these things are huge and it's not sustainable. We need to cut the government size drastically. We intend to do so minimum by 50%. And basically, there are other programs that we have in place when we get there, which I'll talk to you about. But in answer to the parliament issue, we've got it all covered and discussed. This plan is well thought through, well think tanked and strategized. And that is why I can confidently sit here with you and say, given the nod, we will turn this country around in the shortest possible time.
I like the way you speak, but what do you say to the critics who say, Doc, he's going to live abroad, he's made some money, this is an easy road to become popular, and in the end, he probably will join one of the political parties, and he's not going to see and follow it through. How do you answer to such critics?
Our manifesto.
Is this an egoistic trip?
I mean, first of all, before you even make such statements, you need to make a background search of who this guy is and why he's even doing this. I am strongly convicted for the love of people and to make sure that the lifestyles of our people change. I cannot phantom with all the successes we're building individually. If we don't come together to build our nation, then we failed as people. You sit in meetings and it goes, oh, you're from Ghana. Oh, they signed that deal. Ghana has 35% inflation and all this. It's pathetic with the background that we come from. So clearly, it's more being patriotic, more being selfless, thinking about my neighbor and making sure that our Ghanaian people at least deserve much better than what they're having at the moment. So these are the reasons that are motivating me to dump on the line, put myself on the altar of sacrifice and do this. I can stay in my corner and enjoy a little bit of life and luxury and not do this, but I've decided to put myself in here. As you rightly said, the sabotages, the character assassinations, the death they throw at you, all just because I believe, like a messiah, I have come to save this nation.
You say your movement is pushing for a second independence for this country.
Yes.
So what? The 66 or so years that we have had independence is not proper independence?
Absolutely. The NDC MPP have taken over the neo-colonialist movement, and they are practicing that. They are lording themselves over this nation. Leadership, as I know, is not ruling, it's serving. The impact you make as a leader is what gets you the recognition and the respect. Not loading yourself and having bodyguards and Land Cruisers and private jets and all this that would let people give you the recognition. What impact has these parties given to this country? What has changed? So we're calling for a second independence. We're still cutting timber in the bushes. As heavy as they are, drive them, destroy roads we invested millions into our ports, export it and bring it back 3,000% high cost. We are exporting raw gold, not refining any, bringing it back in at a higher cost. We are importing intestines, toothpicks. We don't have an economy. So what has that done for you, my friend? Let's sit down and think as people, critically, assess the situation, and make very important decisions, because this political symbols and party colors would not get us in prosperity. It requires skillful Ghanaians to be able to turn things around. And that is why I've made myself available for the nation to turn this around.
For the second independence?
For the second independence.
Wow. So you are going to be the next Nkrumah of sorts?
Absolutely, Nkrumah reincarnated.
You're still listening to Dr. Ankrah. Very, very exciting conversation we're having. And we promised to give a platform to, if you like, the not traditional political parties, so that we would have alternatives to choose from. The Ghanaian would have alternatives to choose from. Doc, tell us about your big ideas. Speak good English and everything, but the Ghanaian wants to know, how do I benefit? This grammar is not what is going to put food on the table of the Ghanaian.
I know.
What are your big ideas? And like I mentioned before the break, the ex-president says that he's learned his lessons. He's coming with a 24-hour economy. The vice president says digitalization that's going to eliminate the human factor and cut out corruption. What do you bring to the table?
Oh, this is very good. And again, I don't blame Ghanaians for not just listening to rhetoric.
Yeah.
The Brits has a saying, if you can't bend it, you can't break it. The track record of individuals has to be start looking at critically, scrutinized. If people haven't run, let's say a 1 million, 2 million budget, and you give them a 79 billion economy, and they don't have the right people around them, you are subject to fail. I come across to the table with a proven track record, practical work, not theoretical, in the field, across emerging markets, resuscitating dead businesses, mergers and acquisition to revive them, lending money, raising capital for projects and services. I've seen I've set up funds that had fund social impact projects. So I am not just a novice. I'm not just somebody who is feeling egoistic to contest for the post. I feel I have the potential and the capability to turn things around. And that is why I'm making this decision to contest. So what are our policies? There's a simple philosophy in every aspect of our lives, even for a little home, to a single man living in the corner, or to a little security guard earning peanuts. You do not spend what you don't have. You cut your coat according to your size. Our government expenditure is not sustainable. We're spending too much more than we are earning, and that is not prudent in economics. So we will cut waste and cost of government, as like I said, minimum 50%.
So your initial, when you win power, that's one of the main targets.
One of my main target, cost of government, we'll cast it. Reduce government size drastically, like I said, 20 ministers and we'll cut across. We will offload the idle private sector. Here we are, we have government corporations sitting idle and we go to the capital markets and borrow money to pay salaries, recurring expenditures. My brother, what economy are we building? It's not done anywhere. It's not acceptable. So again, we offload all these idle SOEs into the private sector, make sure that the private people that have the capability, the know-how, and the resources will take over, expand this business, and employ Ghanaians. There's a huge unemployment problem in our country. We have more than 100,000 Ghanaian students coming out of universities on a yearly basis. We have about 1 million who comes out after 18, not in employment, not in training, not in any sort of education. How do we sustain this? Create incubation centers across the country. Make sure you bring apprenticeship programs. We have lawyers, we have doctors, we have quantity surveyors, we have architects, we have accountants. All these groups place these young people to understudy them. Apprenticeship. Government pay the salaries of the young people whilst they are there. Give them 5, 6, 7 years. Let them graduate. Let them set their own. Place more people with them. You mutate, and then you realize you are creating employment across the process. Not just putting people somewhere on a 9-month program and a NACOB or you start that would give them a skill to get into employment. Proper employment, apprenticeship. And again, you mentioned brain drain. The Ghanaians teachers are well sought after, even in England. Why are we not taking advantage? Train a lot more teachers. Take them out of the country for foreign exchange. Train more nurses. Again, Ghanaian nurses are sought after in Europe and America and in Canada. Train them, push them there, get returns for it. And I was even told recently, Ghana military are well sought after by the United Nations peacekeeping.
Yeah.
Why do we put quota on our military intake? We would want to increase as high as 100 to 150%. Put and people haven't got jobs. Let them go and train as military. Give them to the United Nations for peacekeeping around the world. Let's have proper thinking and deliberate policies that would turn the lifestyles of our youth around.
Okay.
There's no youth policy. No youth policy whatsoever. Why is that so? So right from birth to the time they are 18 before they get an employment, our administration, and before even we go and contest, we're bringing a youth policy that will take care of every Ghanaian from birth to the age of 18. And when we outdoor these products, and we call our manifesto a contract with Ghanaians.
A contract?
Yes, we're signing a contract with Ghanaians.
So when you don't fulfill it, there's a breach of contract?
There's a breach of contract, and I can be held responsible for it. So we are saying we're going to sign contract with Ghanaians, bring out our policies that we want to change, to bring to effect change in this country once and for all.
What about the other sectors? So usually when we do this with politicians, they look at the political angle. There's the creative arts industry in this country. There's a sports art and the sports people who are in sports. Sports is a big business in England.
Absolutely.
One of the big revenues for the country.
We've got all covered. I mean, Jamaica is just living on sports.
Right.
Bring these templates. And again, Jamaicans are more or less Ghanaians. They all left the shores. So how can they be using sports to turn the economy around, and we're sitting here and look at our sports? It's dead. So let's bring the success templates across the world and adopt it in our country. So we want to make sure we put a lot of investment into sports so that it become a mainstay in our economy as well. We're looking at our health service. Everybody loves Ghana. It's a very good environment. The people are hospitable, and all of those. Why Ghana is not a medical tourism center, I don't even know. We have people flying to as far as England and USA for treatment. Create deliberate policies where businesses will find attractive to set up these medical centers in Ghana, so that we can take care of that. So we have an elaborate, detailed policy, like I said, radical policies that when we start rolling out and when people hear, they will see there's a real alternative for them to make a choice for.
Is it not easier said than done? I remember one of the criticism of the former president, John Mahama, and recently he's been saying, he told someone, you've never been president before and you criticized me, and now you are in power. You know how difficult it is. Maybe from the outside looking in, it looks very easy. I mean, but when you go, maybe the realities will hit you, and And you may have to backtrack. President Kufuor actually did the same thing, had to apologize that he didn't appreciate the work that being president comes with.
I appreciate very well what our predecessors have done.
Yeah.
And I give them absolute respect and recognition for that. However, you got to look at the track record of who you are talking to.
Okay. So we should just trust you.
Like I'm saying, if you can't bend it, you can't break it. I didn't just appear based on rhetoric. In politics, anybody can talk their way up.
Yeah.
In business, when you are waking up to make sure that you have staffs to pay, more than 100 people on a payroll, it's not about how articulate you talk or how you bring out words. It's practical work that has to show for. You're talking to somebody that has 10 dead corporations to build multi-billion turnover economies. So please, let's not cage everybody into the same box.
Okay.
Let's be a little bit discerning, if not researching, to understand who we're dealing with in the first place.
Okay. Quite revealing. On this program, we would end part 1 of our interview here, and then we would bring you a part 2 where we would ask him particular questions on what's happening in the economy. What are his opinion on the conversation around lithium mining and the agreements the country has signed? What does he think about the OSP's fight against corruption and the OSP's cries that the court or the judiciary seem to be working against him, and other sectors of the economy will all be included in part 2 of our interview. Thank you for watching. We will be back with part 2 of the interview. We hope you enjoyed the part 1 and look forward to the part 2.